I'm ready. All right. We're here with none other than Stan Lee, the founding father of Marvel Comics, and we're talking at the Wonderful World of Comics convention in Oakland. Welcome, Stan.
Thank you, Joe. Great to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the projects that you're working on right now. First, anything cooking in the Marvel Productions area? I hear there's a TV show that's going to be on in May.
Well, the one we're working on most is the Marvel Universe, which will feature Spider-Man and the Hulk, and would you believe RoboCop, and one or two other surprises. And we hope to have that on next season as an animated, syndicated show, which means that'll be on the local stations.
Excellent. And you also have a Hulk special that's coming on.
Oh, that's a live action. That'll be on NBC. And in fact, I think I know the exact date. I think it's Sunday the 20. Yeah, Sunday the 20. It's either Saturday or Sunday the 22nd.
I'll pull my calendar out and we...
Whichever is the 22nd,
okay.
Whether it's Saturday or Sunday, that's when it'll be on from 9 to 10. And I think this is going to be one that every comic book reader, and certainly every Marvel reader, is going to want to see, because it not only brings back Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno as Dr. Banner and the Hulk, but it also introduces the mighty Thor and Don Blake.
A live-action Thor.
This is live action, and if the show does well, NBC plans to spin Thor off into a series of his own and continue doing the Hulk as movies for television, a few every year.
Now, is this something where, if the fans watch, that their reaction to the show will help speed along the cause of getting the Thor show put on?
Well, I don't want to sound in any way as if I'm trying to influence anything, but I do most strongly suggest that every fan watches it, tells all his friends and neighbors, even his enemies and perfect strangers, to watch it, makes a lot of noise about it, and writes maybe 20 or 30,000 letters apiece to the network saying how much they loved it. A few phone calls and telegrams won't hurt either.
It sounds like you want the entire Xerox company behind it.
Well, it is important that this show be very favorably received, because it could start a whole cycle of comic book hero shows. Everybody will be watching and seeing how it does.
Well, let's talk some about comic book heroes then. You have a couple of projects in the works. Let's talk first about the Silver Surfer graphic novel that's going to be coming out soon.
Well, I'm happy to say that you choose subjects that I'm not at all reluctant to discuss, since they're my projects. All of a sudden, I seem to have become very big in the Silver Surfer. Keith Pollard, one of the artists at Marvel, about 2.5 years ago, Jim Shooter, who was editor at the time, he said, "Keith wants to draw a Silver Surfer. Would I write it for him as a graphic novel?" I said, "Sure." And Keith did about the first 20 or 30 pages, and they were wonderful. It's now 2.5 years later, and I'm still waiting for him to do the rest to get it finished. And Tom DeFalco, the new editor at Marvel, well, new, I guess he's been there a year now, but Tom DeFalco had told me Keith is just about finished, so I'll be writing that one. Now, in the meantime, I've just done another graphic novel of the Silver Surfer, illustrated by John Buscema. And this is really an unusual one, because we decided to try something different, and instead of it being 6 panels per page, John Buscema drew it so that all 64 pages, every page is a full-page illustration.
Wow.
So it's 64 of the most beautiful full-page illustrations you've ever seen, and I wrote the copy. Now, originally, it was suggested that I just put a caption on the bottom of each page, or on the top or on the side, as the case may be, but I decided I'd rather do something more unexpected. So instead of doing the obvious, adding captions, what I did was I treated each page as if it was a panel in a story, with dialogue balloons, captions, sound effects, and I think it's going to be a more unique looking comic than anything anyone's ever seen. In fact, I understand that Marvel is so excited about it, they're going to publish it in hardcover form, like a book, with regular book jacket. You know, in fact, I'm going to write the copy for the book jacket when I get back to the real world tonight. And finally, the French artist, Mobius, Jean Giraud, he and I were talking one day after some convention or other where I had met him, and we decided we'd love to do a project together. And he said, well, which project would you like to do? And I said, I'd love to do the Silver Surfer. I don't know, I can't get the Silver Surfer out of my mind.
That's your favorite anyway.
Yeah, I guess in a way.
Yeah.
So Mobius is now illustrating, I think it's going to be a 48-page or maybe two 23-pagers. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, I've already written the first 11 pages. And I've got to tell you, his artwork on the Silver Surfer, nobody has ever seen anything like it. It is such a different feeling, and it's so beautiful. And I think it's going to be a sensational in the comic book world, and I figure I'm lucky that I'm able to do the story on this. So those three, the one by Keith Pollard, if he ever finishes the artwork, the one that Buscema has already finished and I've already written, which will come out as a graphic novel with a hardcover, and the new one with and Mobius has never done a comic book in America that's just been done in regular comic book format. You know, they're always special glossy paper.
Right.
And he really wanted to see how his work would look as a plain comic book. So we're doing this Silver Surfer first as two comic book issues, just regular comic book paper. Then after that, we're going to reprint it on very expensive stock for the collectors who want a deluxe version of it. And I have now told you just about all I know about the Silver Surfer. In fact, that's probably just about all I know about anything.
Well, here's something that we'd like to talk about is the Spider-Man newspaper strip. That continues and continues to be successful. How are things going with that?
Tell you a funny story. I don't know if you heard this or not, but Ronald Reagan, and in case you haven't been up on the news lately, he's our president.
Oh.
Ronald Reagan was on a show on ABC last Saturday night, and it was called Conversations with the Presidents. I think he was on, and Gerald Ford and a few others, and people were interviewing them. One student walked up to Ronald Reagan, and he said, Mr. President, and I didn't see this, but I received about 100 phone calls and letters telling me about it. The kid said, Mr. President, do you still read the comics? And Ronald Reagan said, oh, indeed I do. In fact, I can't wait to find out what's going to happen to Spidey and that wrestler. But when I heard about it, it knocked me out. Of all the comics in the world, what does he mention? Spider-Man, you know? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to send him an original panel from the strip, and I'm going to write him a little note. I mean, I'm sure he'll be excited hearing from me. And I'll say in the note something like, I think you ought to hang this on your wall. It'll look great next to the Declaration of Independence, you know, or some humble little sentiment like that. But the strip is still doing very well. It's probably the biggest adventure, the biggest non-humor strip in the paper today. It's still in over 500 newspapers, and I guess it'll go on forever, I hope.
Now, what artist are you working with now for that?
Well, right now, or for the past while, I've been working with my brother, Larry Lieber. He does the penciling, and there's an artist who used to work at our studio in California, in Los Angeles, called Floro Deary, a wonderful illustrator. He's now with Hanna-Barbera, but he does the Sunday pages. I'm sorry, when I said Larry does the penciling, what I meant was Larry does the dailies, and Floro Deary does the Sunday pages. So I spend most of my time, Larry lives in New York, Floro's on the other side of Los Angeles, and I spend most of my time mailing and sending by messenger service the penciling to Larry. I get it back, I check it, I send it to the letterer who lives somewhere else, I get it back, I send it to Larry to ink. In the meantime, I get Floro's stuff, I read it, I send it back to him, I do some changes on it, he inks it, sends it back, I send it to the letterer, then it goes to the colorer, then it comes back to me, I edit it all, then I send him to the syndicate, and it's a wonder I have time even, I mean, I don't know how I have time to talk to you on this interview because there's so much stuff going back and forth in the mail.
Well, now, last year at this convention, we were talking about Spider-Man getting married, and someone brought up a point about Spider-Man having babies in the newspaper strip, or he might not have them with Mary Jane Watson Parker.
Bite your tongue. Who else will he have them with?
Can you let any of the newspaper strip fans know if there's anything in the works like that?
Well, maybe at the next convention, if I'm lucky enough to be invited. But actually, I hadn't even thought about it. I mean, let the poor guy enjoy his little honeymoon. It's hardly over.
Right, he enjoys the practice.
Yeah. No, I haven't thought about it. You know, the time in comic strips isn't the same as real-world time. I mean, I figure 10 or 20 years can go by, and he may then say maybe he'll have aged a week or two, and he'll say to Mary Jane, "Isn't it time we had a baby?" Or she'll say it to him. You know what really happens with things like that, though? Usually you make a monumental change like that, like the marriage. Either when you think you're getting bored writing the same old thing year after year, or when you think the fans are getting bored reading it. Now, I'm not bored at all writing the strip now. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I have no reason to think that the readers are bored. So until I get that feeling, I probably will not have them in a family way until I make up my mind.